to our studio. Today we will be working towards a one-legged downward dog with a twist. So find your place to settle in, close your eyes, start to notice all the sounds around you. Start to notice what you can still see behind your closed eyelids. Tune into your breath. Start to notice its natural rhythm. Tune in to the beat of your heart. And start to scan the body, starting at the top of your head, down to the shoulders, soften the face. Notice the weight of your body against the floor. And come back to your breath and place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. And just notice how the body moves with each breath. And then when you are ready, you can take yourself down to the back body to begin practice. So lift and spread the toes, spread the fingers wide, pull your belly in. Take your arms up and overhead for a full body stretch. And as you exhale, take your arms down by your sides. Follow the inhale to take the arms back up and overhead and move like this with the pace of your breath. One breath, one movement, just establishing a rhythm here at the beginning of practice. And then the next time you take your arms up and overhead, bring them out a little bit into like a Y shape, and then bring them down. Once the arms are down, with the next inhale, bring them up and out to the sides and then overhead, and just start to explore the range of motion in your shoulders. You can get kind of playful with this here. Just noticing sensation in the shoulders. Now place a bend into your knees with your arms overhead. Bring the bottoms of your feet together. Take the knees out wide. Keep your arms up and over your head and then out to the sides with the palms facing up. As you exhale, bring the palms together so your fingertips will be pointing toward the ceiling. And with each inhale, take your arms back out by your sides. And just move like this with your breath. Noticing sensation again in the shoulders. Notice the weight of your arms as they come down to the floor to hover and then back up to meet. Keep the belly pulled in, keep the feet pressed into each other with the toes lifted and spread. And now really start to slow the movements down. So by slowing the movement down, you're going to slow your breath down as well. So just notice this. Notice how it feels to move really, really slowly. Stay focused on your breath, focused on sensation. And when you bring the arms back out, hover just above the floor. Keep the breath moving in and out through the nose. And when you're ready, bring them back up. Bring the knees together. Take the arms down by your sides. Keep the knees bent. Place the feet about hips distance apart and pick up your right foot and place it on your left thigh. Pick up the left foot and place your hands at the back of the thigh just underneath the knee on the left leg. With each inhale, begin to straighten the left leg, taking your heel toward the ceiling. And with each exhale, place a bend back into the left knee. Move like this with your breath. Just notice the opening of the hips. Keep the toes lifted and spread. Belly pulled in, tailbone down. And the next time your foot is lifted, start to move the ankle. Again, exploring range of motion in the ankle, and moving the foot in different directions. And then whenever you're ready, you can take the left foot back down. Take the arms out to your sides and start to very slowly move the legs just as they are over to the left. Take your gaze over the right hand. Come back to your breath and notice how it's moving your body in this moment of stillness. Come back to the sound of your breath. And when you're ready, brace the front body, draw the knees back through center and switch sides. So place your left foot on your right thigh. Draw the right foot up to place your hands at the back of the thigh, just under the knee. And just like the first side, begin to bend and straighten now the right leg with each breath. So inhale, straighten, exhale, bend. Just keep moving with your breath. The next time the leg is straight, pause, start to move the ankle, pointing and flexing, circling, whatever feels best. And bring your arms back out to your sides. Keep the legs just as they are and slowly take the legs over to the right this time. Take the gaze over the left hand. Come back to noticing how the body is moving with each breath, especially in a twist. It might be much more noticeable. You can take your right hand to the foot that's grounded, the left foot. If that's available. And stay with your breath. And when you're ready, brace the front body, bring the legs back through center, uncross the legs. Keep the knees bent, step your feet to the outside edges of your mat. Take the arms out into a T with the palms facing down. Lift and spread the toes, spread the fingers wide and keep the belly pulled in. And as you exhale, take the knees to the right and take your gaze to the left. As you inhale, come back through center. As you exhale next, take the knees to the left and the gaze to the right. Keep moving with your breath. One breath, one movement. Bandha is engaged, so lifting and spreading the toes, keeping the belly pulled in. Slow it down a little bit, and then you'll notice your breath slowing down as well. And when you've done that evenly on both sides, come back through the center. Take the ankles directly underneath the knees and the arms down by your sides with your palms down. Engage the bandhas, engage the glutes. And with each inhale, take the hips up toward the ceiling as you press down in all four corners of your feet in your full arm and hand. You're going to pause with the hips lifted and slowly take the arms up and overhead. With the arms up and overhead, slowly take the hips back down, one vertebra at a time. So it's almost as if you're feeling a massage of the spine as you peel it up off of the floor and bring it slowly back down. Move with your breath. Lift the hips, take the arms overhead, lower the hips, take your arms down by your sides. And the next time the arms are down by your sides, pause, the hips down, bring the bottoms of your feet together and the knees out wide, and just take a moment to place your hands on your belly, notice your breath, and bring the knees back up. Place the right ankle on the left thigh, bring your arms way in by your sides, bend the elbows so your fingertips are pointing toward the ceiling, engage all of the bandhas, and as you inhale, begin to lift the hips up toward the ceiling as you press down with the left foot and the upper arms. Each inhale, lift. Each exhale, lower. One breath, one movement. Make sure the left knee is staying over the left ankle, not going out to the side or in. The next time you're lifted, pause. Notice how this feels to be lifted with one foot off of the ground. When you're ready, take the hips back down to the floor. Take a moment, feel your breath, and switch sides. So this time take your left ankle to your right thigh, ground down in the right foot, the upper arms, elbows are bent, fingertips toward the ceiling. With each inhale, lift the hips up. With each exhale, lower them down. And this time pay attention to the right foot, the right knee, toes lifted and spread, right knee over the right ankle. And the next time the hips are lifted, pause there. Keep lifting up with the hips, pressing down with the foot, pressing down with the upper arms. Keep the breath moving in and out through the nose. Notice any difference between the two sides. And when you are ready, you can lower the hips back down, uncross the legs, bring the bottoms of your feet together, knees out wide, arms overhead. Take a moment to notice your breath. Release the hips. And bring the knees back together. Roll over to your side and set up for sweeping twist. So come over to your right side. Bring your legs together. Bring your knees directly in front of your hips and your feet directly below the knees. Bring both arms together, palms together in front of you, the right side of your head resting on the floor. As you inhale, begin to move the left hand slightly in front of the right, and then begin to sweep it above your head and then over to the left. As you exhale, slowly bring the left arm back up and overhead to meet up with the palm that's resting on the floor. Begin to move like this with your breath. With each inhale, take the arm up and overhead, the left arm up and overhead and over to the left. And as you exhale, slowly bring it back up and over to meet up with the grounded hand. Again, move like this with your breath. Keep the knees together. Be sure that you're not only moving from the shoulders, you're also twisting the torso as you move over toward the left. The next time you are open in the twist, pause. Take your gaze over the left hand. Come back to noticing breath. Keep the bandhas engaged, toes lifted and spread, knees pressed together, belly pulled in, fingers spread wide, arms reaching in opposite directions. Stay with the sound of your breath. And as you exhale, very slowly bring the left arm back up and over to meet up with the right. Make your way back to the back body and then over to your left. So once you're on your left side, bring your legs together, bring the knees directly in front of your hips, feet directly below the knees, both arms together, both palms together in front of you. Left side of the head resting on the floor, and the same thing as we did on the first side. This time you're going to be moving the right hand slightly in front of the left, and then sweeping the floor up and overhead into the right. With each exhale, bring the arm back over to meet up with the left. Move like this with your breath. Coming back to noticing sensation, noticing if anything feels different on this side compared to the first side. Keep the bandhas engaged, keep the knees pressed together. And move with the whole upper body, not just at the shoulder. The whole torso is moving over into an open position. And the next time you come into the twist, pause. Take your gaze over your right hand. Keep the knees pressed together. Come back to noticing sensation. Stay aware of your breath, how it's moving the body, the sound of it moving in and out through your nose. And then when you're ready, take the right arm back to meet up with the left, and slowly make your way up to sitting, and then take a moment to grab 2 blocks. If you don't have blocks, a couple of thick books would be just as good, just as well. Now place those blocks or books vertically in front of you so that you have enough space between them to place your head. Come to hands and knees and place the elbows at the top portion of that block, so toward the front short end of your mat. And then come down into child's pose, so sending the hips back to the heels. Bring the palms together if possible, and then bring them back toward your shoulder blades. Get an opening in the shoulders here, opening in the upper arms. If this does not feel good in your body, you can take the blocks away and just come into a regular child's pose with the arms forward. And then when when you're ready, come out of that. Place the blocks now in front of you, but over to the side, the long edge of your mat. So you're facing the long edge of your mat now. Place the blocks again vertically in your palms or the books, and begin moving the arms up and overhead while you're holding on to those blocks. Move with your breath. And now, just like we did on our back, start bringing the arms out into a Y position, holding on to the blocks still, and then start to move the arms up and down out at your sides. Again, still holding on to the blocks. And once the arms are out to the side in a T, pause there and start to make little circles. Forward and then back. And again, just focus on the range of motion in your shoulders. Focus on the sensation you feel in the shoulders. If anything is painful, back off from this. Now place the blocks off to the side. Come to hands and knees. Make sure your hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips, and feet are straight out from your knees. As you exhale, push your shoulder blades apart, look back at your legs, and send your hips back to your heels. As you inhale, come right back up to hands and knees, bring your shoulder blades together on your back, and look slightly forward. As you exhale, push your shoulder blades apart, look back at your legs, and send your hips back to your heels. As you inhale, come right back up, look forward, bring your shoulder blades together. So this is the new pattern of movement, now on hands and knees. Move with your breath. And the next time you're on hands and knees, pause there. Very slowly move the hips back to your heels as you have the tailbone slightly lifted up and the shoulder blades together on your back. So just notice how this feels. Instead of rounding your back and bringing your shoulder blades further apart, notice how it feels to keep the shoulder blades together, lifting the tailbone a little bit, and then sending the hips back to your heels. It's a different sensation. You just need to notice if it doesn't feel good in your body. Go back to pushing your shoulder blades apart and sending your hips back to your heels. And once you come back up to hands and knees, pause, grab one block, place it horizontally in front of you. Place your palms down, the thumbs under the block, the index fingers on the side of the block. Be sure hands are under shoulders, knees are under hips. Tuck your toes under, and with your exhale, lift the knees and send the hips up and back to downward facing dog. As you inhale, lower the knees back down, untuck your toes, send your hips back to your heels. As you inhale, come right back up to hands and knees, tuck the toes. Exhale, send the hips up and back to downward facing dog. And with the inhale, lower the knees back down, untuck the toes, and send your hips back to your heels. So move like this with your breath. This is the Earth Salutation. Keep the bandhas engaged, keep the belly pulled in. When you come up into downward facing dog, keep the knees bent, keep the tailbone lifted, and really press yourself away from the mat. Move slowly so you can feel everything. Pause where you'd like to pause. You can hover the knees above the mat before lifting all the way up. You can hover them back on the way down. You can lift up onto your toes. Make this your own by listening to your body and knowing what works best for you. Knowing what you need in this moment. And the next time you're in downward facing dog, pause there and start to move the legs. So on the breath, take one heel down as you bend the knee of the opposite leg. Move with your breath. Keep pressing yourself away from the mat, lifting the tailbone up. Bring that to stillness and slowly start to walk your hands and feet together. So you'll want to be toward the front end of your mat in a forward fold. In the forward fold, pause. You can grab opposite elbows with your hands if you'd like. Sway a little bit from side to side. And then bend the knees to send the hips down and back. Feet hips distance apart. Shoulder blades together. And then as you inhale, lift the torso and the arms to frame your ears. Make sure your knees are over your ankles and you can still see your toes. Bond is engaged. Pause in chair pose to feel everything. And when you exhale next, come to standing. Bring your arms down by your sides, hands to your heart. As you inhale, take the arms up and overhead. Pause. Keep the belly pulled in and lift one foot at a time to challenge your balance. Bring your palms together, hands to heart. Hinge at your hips back into the forward fold. Bend the knees. Lift the torso and the arms to frame your ears. Exhale to standing. Bring your arms down by your sides, hands to your heart. Arms up overhead on the inhale. Lift one foot at a time to challenge the balance. And then come back into the forward fold. Bend the knees. Lift the torso, lift the arms to frame your ears. Come to standing. Arms down by your sides, hands to your heart. Arms up overhead on the inhale. Lift one foot at a time. Belly pulled in. Fingers spread wide. Hinge at your hips into the forward fold and pause. With both hands down, knees bent as much as you need to. Step back with both feet. Downward facing dog. Step the feet back just a little bit more toward the back end of your mat. Lift way up onto your toes. And as you inhale, move the shoulders forward so they end up over your wrist. And your upper body becomes parallel to the floor. Move in and out of this plank wave on your breath. Just coming in and out of plank and downward facing dog. The next time you are in plank, pause. Keep pushing yourself away from the mat. Keeping your legs straight, heels back, head forward. Bring your elbows in and slowly lower yourself down to the floor. Chest first, hips second. Rest for a moment here. Take your arms up and overhead for a full body stretch on the belly. And then take your left arm out to your side in a T. Your right hand under your shoulder. Place a bend into the right knee and lift the thigh up so that the heel of the foot comes closer to the ceiling. With the leg lifted, begin to push yourself away from the floor on the right side, taking your right foot over to the left. As you exhale, come back down to where you began. And with the inhale, come up into that same twist and move like this with your breath. Keep the bandhas engaged, toes lifted and spread. The head can stay down, it can turn with you, whatever feels best on the neck. The next time you're in the twist, pause. Come back to your breath. Keep the breath moving in and out through the nose. And when you're ready, come back to the belly to set up for the other side. So take your right arm out into a T with the palm down, left hand under the shoulder. This time pick up the left leg, bend the knee, send the heel up toward the ceiling, and then over to the right. With the exhale, come back down to where you started. And keep moving like this with your breath. So with each inhale, you'll open up into the twist. With each exhale, you'll come back down to the belly. Pushing yourself away from the mat with your left hand, sending the left leg over to the right. And the next time you're in the twist, pause. Notice any differences. Always come back to noticing sensation, especially when you are working both sides of the body at different times. Just come back to noticing differences without judgment. And when you're ready, come back to the belly, arms overhead for another full body stretch on the belly. Take your hands back to line up with your shoulders. Come back up to hands and knees. And set yourself up well with the hands under shoulders, knees under hips, feet straight out from the knees, toes tucked under. And with the belly pulled in, take the right leg straight out behind you. Place a bend into the knee, sending the heel up toward the ceiling. And with the breath, with the inhale, take the heel a little closer to the ceiling, and with the exhale, bring it down just a tiny bit. So keep with this pulsing action of the right foot facing the ceiling. Move on your breath. And when you're ready, come back down to hands and knees. Send your hips back to your heels if you'd like. Come right back up, set up well. Same thing on the other side. So lengthen the left leg out behind you, long, parallel to the floor. Bend the knee, send the heel up toward the ceiling, and begin the pulsing action on your breath. Each inhale, you'll take the heel up a little bit closer to the ceiling. Ready, you can come back down. Again, send your hips back to your heels, release. Lengthen the arms out long in front of you. Take your forehead down to the mat. Breathe deeply into the belly. Reach the arms out forward so that the elbows come up off of the mat. And with the breath, take one shoulder closer to the mat as you lift the other one up slightly. And go between the two sides on the breath. So with each exhale, you'll take one shoulder down and lift the other one up. Inhale, come back through the center, and then switch. And when you're ready, bring that to stillness. Come up to hands and knees and send your hips up and back to downward facing dog. On your inhale, bring the knees down and send the hips back to the heels. Come right back up on the inhale. As you exhale, send the hips up and back to downward facing dog. Inhale, bring the knees back down to the mat. Send your hips back to your heels. So coming back to a few earth salutations. And the next time you're in downward facing dog, pause there. Feel everything. Push yourself away from the mat. Place more weight into the left foot as you slowly bring the right leg up parallel to the floor. Bend the knee and send the right foot over to the left, opening up the right hip, still pressing yourself away from the mat. So one-legged downward dog with a twist. Keep the face soft. Keep the breath moving in and out through the nose, belly pulled in, toes lifted and spread. When you're ready, bring the right foot back down to meet up with the left. Bring your knees back down to the mat. Send your hips back to your heels. Pause here, release. Maybe roll out your wrists. And then come back up to hands and knees. Tuck the toes under. And grab that block again if you'd like and place it in front of you just like before to space your hands the correct distance apart. And then eventually push your hips up and back to downward facing dog. Place more weight into the right foot. Lift the left leg straight out behind you. Bend the knee and send the left foot over to the right, opening up the left hip, still pressing yourself away from the mat. All the bandhas engaged. Face soft, breath moving in and out through the nose. Searching for your edge. And when you have reached that edge, bring the left leg back down, meet up with the right. Take the feet a little bit closer to the back end of your mat. Take your knees back down and make your way onto your belly. Once you're on your belly, take the arms overhead for a full body stretch. And then take your arms down by your sides with the palms down. Bring the legs together like they're one leg and press the hip bones down into the mat. With the inhale, lift the head and shoulders up off of the ground. And as you exhale, lower back down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Now the next time you lift the head and shoulders, lift the arms up as well. Keep the arms lifted. Keep the head and shoulders lifted. See if you can lift the legs just a tiny bit. And just notice what this feels like in your body. And when you're ready, come back down. Bring your hands under your shoulders to push yourself back up to hands and knees. Come into child's pose again with the hips to your heels. Arms out in front of you, forehead down. Release. And come back up to your hands and your knees. Tuck the toes under. Lift the hips up and back to downward facing dog. And then start to walk the feet and the hands together, coming back into that forward fold. Knees slightly bent, head hanging heavy. Sway back and forth a few times, maybe move the legs a few times. Consider this a moment of ease. And bring your palms fully down to the mat so that you can step one foot back at a time, come back down to hands and knees, and then transition over to your back. Once you're on your back, take the arms out into a T with the palms facing down. Walk your feet to the outside edges of your mat after you bend the knees. With the bandhas engaged, begin moving through windshield wiper on the breath. So as you exhale, take your knees to one side as you gaze in the opposite direction. As you inhale, bring the knees back through center and switch. So on the breath, exhale, knees over, inhale, knees center. Move the gaze in the opposite direction of the knees. And when you feel like you have worked through that evenly, walk your feet back to the middle part of your mat, and then draw the knees into your chest, hug them in with your arms. Lift the head and shoulders up as well, and just give your legs a really big squeeze. Release, and then do the same thing again. Wrap your arms around your knees, lift the head and shoulders. Squeeze the legs in. And then one more time. Squeeze the legs in with the arms, lift the head and shoulders. And then release. Take your legs out long. Take your arms up and overhead for a full body stretch. Engage the bandhas, lift and spread your toes, spread the fingers wide. And then place a bend back into your knees. Draw the knees in so that you can place your hands at the back of the thigh, just underneath the knees. And with both legs together, toes lifted and spread, as you inhale, begin to straighten out both legs, sending the heels up toward the ceiling. And as you exhale, place a bend back into the knees. Keep some opposition there between the hands and the legs. So as you're pulling back with the hands, push a little bit forward with the legs. Create a little bit of your own resistance. And then with the legs straight, begin to get a little bit of movement in the ankles. Place a bend back into your knees. Take your feet back to the floor. Just make your way onto your side so that you can push yourself back up to hands and knees. And now I'm inviting you to go to a wall that's fairly open, and you have space to take your legs up the wall. So scoot your hip, doesn't matter which side you're on, scoot your hip over to where the wall and the floor meet, and then swing the legs up and take your upper body down to the floor. So your legs will be up the wall, back body down, arms resting by your sides, and relax everything here. You can use this as your setup for Shavasana, or you can just stay on your back body with the legs relaxed down, arms relaxed down. In either position, come back to your breath. You can also come back to an affirmation that you might have in mind, a mantra that you've used before, something to keep you away from the thinking mind. And always take this time at the end of your practice to digest, to rest. And eventually start to bend the knees and use your feet to push yourself away from the wall so that you can come up to sitting. Now, if you'd rather stay in Shavasana a little bit longer, you can pause this recording and take that time for yourself. Otherwise, just roll to your side for a moment before making your way back up to sitting. Once you come back up to sitting, just bring your hands to your heart. Send yourself gratitude for being here and taking this time for yourself. It is the light in me that looks out and sees that same light within you. Namaste.